and the medium term. Mr. Speaker, over the medium term, from 2026 to 2028, real GDP is set to rise steadily, averaging about 4.9% at the minimum. Non-oil GDP is programmed to grow around 5% at the minimum. So, Speaker, inflation will stay within 8 plus or minus 2% targeted band, reflecting a firm grip on price stability. The Speaker, the fiscal balance will remain strong, with the primary surplus of 1.5% of GDP from 2026 onwards. And Right Honourable Speaker, gross international reserves are expected to provide at least 3 months of import cover over the medium term. Right Honourable Speaker, for the year 2026, we will achieve the following at the minimum. Real GDP growth of at least 4.8%, driven by continued expansion in infrastructure and service sectors, agriculture as well. Non-oil GDP, Mr. Speaker, at least 4.9%. End-year inflation for next year will be at least 8% plus or minus 2. Mr. Speaker, primary surplus of 1.5% of GDP on commitment basis in line with our fiscal responsibility framework to sustain discipline and debt sustainability. Gross international reserves of not less than 3 months of import cover, covering a strong external sector and a strong defense for the Ghana city. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's fiscal strategy over the medium term is to lock in stability and turn it into lasting growth. From 2026, government will sustain a primary surplus of at least 1.5% of GDP on commitment basis each year, anchoring fiscal discipline and debt sustainability. Speaker, revenue and grant are projected to rise from 16.4% of GDP in 2025 to 16.9% in 2026, reaching 17% by 2029, driven by stronger tax administration. Right Honourable Speaker, our focus is on expanding the tax net, not overburden existing taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, expenditure growth will remain disciplined, rising modestly from 15% of GDP in 2025 to 15.4% in 2026. As a result, the fiscal deficit will narrow sharply from 2.8% of GDP in 2025 to 2% in 2026 and 2.1% by 2029. Mr. Speaker, in 2026, government will target a primary surplus of 1.5% of GDP, consistent with our fiscal anchor. The overall fiscal deficit on commitment basis is projected at 2.2% of GDP. On cash basis, the overall fiscal deficit is projected at 4% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, this fiscal stance balances consolidation with growth, maintaining discipline while safeguarding resources for productive investment under the Big Push infrastructure program and other national priorities. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to revenue mobilization for 2026. Right Honourable Speaker, in 2026, government expects to collect total revenue and grant of 268.1 billion Ghana cedis, up from 226.7 billion in 2025, a strong 18.3% increase. Non-oil tax revenue, the backbone of domestic mobilization, is projected at 216.1 billion Ghana cedis, growing on the back of improved compliance and enforcement. Oil and gas receipts are expected to contribute 13.6 billion Ghana cedis, supported by steady global prices. The Speaker, non-tax revenue is projected at 20.9 billion, with 18.2 billion retained by ministries, departments, and agencies to sustain essential service. The Speaker, additional inflows from Senate transfers and energy sector levies are estimated at 14.4 billion Ghana cedis, whilst development partners grant will add 3.1 billion to fund key projects. The Speaker, total expenditure on commitment basis for 2026 is projected at 302.6.5 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 18.9% of GDP, up from 251.7 billion Ghana cedis in 2025. primary expenditure stands at 244.7 billion, or 15.3% of GDP, reflecting targeted spending that drives growth and delivers value. Compensation of employees is projected at 90.3 billion Ghana cedis, ensuring fair remuneration for public servants. The Speaker, 13.2 billion have been allocated for goods and services to improve efficiency across MDAs. Right, Honourable Speaker, capital expenditure will rise sharply to 57.5 billion Ghana cedis, or 3.6% of GDP, led by the Big Push Infrastructure Program, which alone will absorb 30 billion Ghana cedis for road development. The Speaker, interest payments are projected to decline to 57.7 billion thanks to prudent liability management. The Speaker, grants to statutory funds, energy payment, and other essential transfers totals 63.6 billion Ghana cedis, whilst ESLA and IPP commitments are estimated at 19.7 billion Ghana cedis. Overall, the 2026 appropriation stands at about 357.1 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, this is a bold yet responsible budget designed to sustain stability, build infrastructure, and improve the lives of every Ghanaian. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to budget balances and financing. Right, Honourable Speaker, the overall fiscal balance on commitment basis is projected at a deficit of 34.4 billion, equivalent to 2.2% of GDP. The corresponding primary balance records a surplus of 23.3 billion Ghana cedis, representing 1.5% of our GDP. Mr. Speaker, on a cash basis, the overall deficit is projected at 64.2 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 4% of GDP. The cash deficit of 64.2 billion will be financed from balanced mix of foreign and domestic borrowing sources. Mr. Speaker, foreign finance is projected as a net repayment of 6.6 billion, or 0.4% of GDP. This includes extended expected disbursement from the IMF and the World Bank. The Speaker, domestic financing will amount to 71 billion Ghana cedis and will be sourced from long and short-term government securities. The Speaker, the strategy will support domestic market development and ensure their sustainability, as well as maintaining financial sector stability. Right, Honourable Speaker, Ghana's 2025 to 2028 debt management strategy marks a decisive shift to responsible borrowing. With 93.5% of total debt restructured, 20.3 billion in domestic bonds, 13.1 billion in Eurobond, and 5.2 billion in bilateral loans. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is firmly on a sustained path. Mr. Speaker, the strategy focuses on cutting refinancing risk, reducing costs, deepening local markets, and boosting transparency. It revives the bond market, building liquidity buffers, and relies mainly on concessional financing from the IMF, World Bank, and bilateral partners. Mr. Speaker, benchmarks including short-term debt below 15%, treasury bills, and 20% of domestic debt and foreign debt capped at 70%. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to the meat. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to the meat.